One of the most important 1-2 punches we've had in the last week was Janet Yellen just yesterday, Monday, talking about buying back older bonds and calling it recycling. I don't care what she calls it. What it's going to end up doing is keeping yields from going any higher. So it essentially puts a low in on the bonds. So this would be ZB or TLT. Right? It helps put a low in on the bonds, and it caps the climbing yields. The pattern that we're looking at, minor low, but this time we've got Yellen fuel. Let's see if we can continue. Right? We're getting the completion of that minor low. Minor lows do tend to follow through. You can see the signal there. I'd prefer that this not happen in a downtrend, but nonetheless, this is a powerful pattern that we can keep an eye on. The idea, though, this time is this a pivot in terms of what would keep bond short sellers away, knowing the government's going to start recycling, buying bonds. All right? That could very well be a reason to think that we have a bottom in bonds, but we can measure this. It's easy. Look at the low of the 1024 candle, and we just have to remain above really 117.18. We need to remain above 117.18. If that's broken, downtrend's back, and everyone's just sort of ignoring what Yellen said. But what if they don't? Let's go back to Mary Daly's comments, Fed member Daly, and a lot of the optimism that she really began. And people asked me, could Daly be the pivot? So Daly basically said, fairly generally, that it's time to start discussing slowing the pace of the rate hikes. And said that they're on track to get rates to 4.5% to 5%. That number is significantly lower than the higher end of the Fed Fund futures target rate probability. 4.5% to 5% basically draws the line here. And it really doesn't factor in the 5 to 5.25 or 5.25 to 5.5, which at times has been part of the conversation. This would be less than what we're thinking rates could be at come May 23. What's important about May 23 of next year? That's where it seems rates plateau. We don't see consistently higher rates. In fact, it's where things just stall. So if that's where she's looking to align expectations, that's bullish to equities. I wouldn't call it a pivot, but then you add her pretty sedate take on where rates are going with Yellen's conversation about buying back bonds, yields moving higher, they've got an obstacle. Maybe it's the Federal Reserve, maybe it's the Treasury. Back to price. Back to where we are in price. Each time, this is really important, gang, each time we've tried to break to significantly lower lows, meaning we take out the lows of the year at the time. So we took out the June lows, we took out the September lows. Every time we've done that, we have bottomed out in volume. Every time. Volume says, yeah, I see price is making a lower low, but volume's not. And that's a disconnect. What's more important, that price is making a lower low or that we're getting participation at those lower lows? Right? And there's a couple ways you can do that. One way is with the V-score. The other way is with a comparative look at volatility over the past 14 to 21 days, maybe even 30 days. Are we seeing more volume on a particular candle in a particular session than we have in the couple weeks prior? That lets us know whether or not there's more opinion. So we can look at volume in terms of that total number of contracts. We can also look at volume from a support and resistance perspective. And both of those are saying, yeah, you don't want to get too ahead of yourself. In fact, If I recall, and I'm going to be talking about this in a webinar tonight, if I recall, that candle there, the up candle was either 131 or 134% of average volume. You think that opinion mattered? As we pierced to new lows and rallied, we had 131% of average volume. And you can see what's happened since. When volume doesn't agree with where price is going, you have a disconnect. Most traders don't know to look at multiple dimensions of the market. They're looking at price. Maybe they're looking at a secret squiggle, an indicator. That's what I call an indicator. That's based on price. But are they looking at indicators that are looking at volume, volatility, time? Volume right now is going to be the key. Volume was the key in 2008 to 2009. Volume was the key in 2019 when we sold off, 2020, and even my buy in July. It was volume, gang. So those are the things that we want to take a look at. Take a look. This is definitely something to take a look at. We were in a downtrend. All of this conversation is happening as we're going back to a neutral market trend. And those are the pieces, those are the boxes we need to check for whether it's a 5-minute chart entry, a daily chart entry, or a weekly chart entry. And that's definitely, when you think about, all right, Rog, what are you going to talk about tonight? That's what I'm going to talk about. But more so than that, I think what I'm super excited about, because when I look back on 2022 and I think about what is the singular pattern that sort of came up again and again and again, remember, pattern, process, a series of steps we're going to take and then repeat those steps, right? A pattern and process. It was a pattern of volume, then trend, then a price pattern. Again and again and again. 5-minute chart, same thing. Daily chart, same thing. Weekly chart, same thing. Are there other things we can add? Absolutely. If you have a favorite indicator that you're saying, gosh, could this work with it? Absolutely. Because nothing doesn't benefit from volume. Nothing. If you've got a momentum breakout, if you've got a squeeze, if you've got an oversold stochastic, if you've got a ready aim fire, as it's firing, if we're at some sort of volume inflection point, or if we're seeing increased volume relative to the past 14 or 21 days, now this is size agreeing with price. That's really important. And for a lot of traders, that's where the wheels fall off the wagon.
Hey traders, Raghee from Simpler Trading. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to leave a like and a comment below. And remember, subscribe and click the bell icon so you'll get notified of the next update. And when you're ready to join me for live trading, be sure to head on over to simplertrading.com. I'll see you in the next update.